Trying something new today. It's actually just going to be a video. But the annoying thing is when you record on a phone or an iPad, the memory of the iPad really limits how long your recording can be. So I just thought I'd do a little maybe 10-minute video now and just leave it up as an actual video because I need to start uploading more. So basically what I wanted to talk about today is about this former Man United player called Gary Neville, who's someone I really like because, I support Manchester United. He is a regular pundit and commentator on Sky Sports, and Sky Sports, of course, covers all the football. Now, he went on the panel after the game in which Manchester United beat Man City to talk about racism because there was some racist incidents during the game. So, two Manchester United players got mocked. So, one called Fred, who's Brazilian, but he is black, and he got lighters thrown at him. And then another player who's mixed race called Jesse Lingard, who is from Manchester, and he's English. Seemingly, Man City players, not seemingly, they did. I don't know which player they directed it to, maybe both, were doing monkey chants and monkey actions, and you can go have a look at that on YouTube. It has been posted up there. And obviously in England, we've been seeing a lot more racist incidents in football over the last couple years, maybe the last 10 years. And basically what Gary Neville said, which I really respect, is that he said that, part of the reason why there's so much racism in football is because there's so much racism generally in society. And you look at the current Prime Minister, you look at the current government, you look at the way they demonise migrants, you look at things like, he didn't say this, but obviously implying things like the Brexit referendum, where non-white people and migrants and Muslims are all demonised to help get, the Brexit vote. And I super respect someone using his platform to say this. And what I'm also glad about is that the reception to his words have really been well received online, which I didn't really expect. But you always get those people stick to football, don't talk about politics. I always say it to Gary Lineker on Twitter. So I really respect Gary Neville saying all this stuff, and he is in part right. I'm going to get into why I think he is wrong in some ways, but yeah, of course, Boris Johnson is racist. He has said numerous racist things to Muslims, about black people, about pretty much anyone. So it's not a stretch to say when you have someone like Boris Johnson running the country, people feel more emboldened to be racist. And there's data to back this up in terms of there's been more xenophobic attacks since the Brexit referendum in England, and there's been more hate crimes in the US, much more since Donald Trump has been elected, because racists think these people, have legitimized their elections, have legitimized my worldview, so I can go out and be racist to whoever I want. Now, I think the broader point is something Gary Neville is missing. I think a lot of the time we're being more alert to racism, so we're picking it up more. Not that it's necessarily increased, but I think football has been a haven for racism pretty much since the first black players started playing here. Now, it's not a coincidence that one of the most far-right mainstream politicians, because he ran for an MEP seat, Tommy Robinson, was born out of football hooliganism. So if you don't know where Tommy Robinson started, I think he was a hooligan for a firm who supports Luton Town. So Luton Town are a team that play in the Championship now. So that is the culture where Tommy Robinson was born, because when you get a bunch of blokes together, a lot of them maybe not the best educated on things like race, in a crowd where you can say whatever you want, no one's going to pick you up. And I've been to football games. You can hear some of the chants or some comments people make. You can still hear racism no matter what game you go to, and other things like, for example, there was a Northern. Well, he was born in Northern Ireland, but he plays for the Republic of Ireland. He doesn't wear a poppy during the Remembrance Month in Britain every year, because in Northern Ireland, English soldiers killed a lot of people in the area he grew up in, killed a lot of civilians. But he gets booed all the time when he's playing, like really hostile reception, because it's this British bulldog culture. And I think if anyone has a negative view of an Irish person for not wearing a poppy, I think that's the same type of people who is going to be racist to black people or Muslims when they're playing football. And it's this weird, I guess, disconnect where they will be racist to other teams' players while at the same time having a very multicultural team themselves. It's a really weird thing. But yes, for decades now, football has been a safe space for racists. You can just go there, blow off some steam, say whatever you want, abuse the other players, and you're not going to get much criticism for it, because one, they might not hear you, it might not get picked up, but now they're really starting to enforce it more. And you can see this across the world, really. You see in Eastern Europe, you see all the racism, and you see people trying to tackle it, but it's really, really weak stuff. When all the English players have been racially abused, I think it was in Montenegro and Bulgaria, and then UEFA's sanctions against them are just awful. So it's not really doing much to combat the problem. But you are seeing people trying to tackle it more. And Gary Neville might have his assessment that it's because of people like Boris Johnson and Donald Trump and far-right people and racist people getting into power, which I do see maybe some correlation with, especially with the Brexit stuff. I would agree with him. But at the same time, I think football has just always been racist. And yet this is the culture that gave us Tommy Robinson. And if I think for people who don't understand English football, who have no interest in sports, Tommy Robinson is a good way in to get a look at your average football fan in this country in terms of the people who go to the games all the time. And it shows how, all his fans chant his name, oh, Tommy, Tommy, like a football song. Because that is essentially what he still is, a football hooligan who's trying to become a politician. And he's leading this movement. And it's just easy in these games to get a load of white, English, a lot of the time working class people, and get together, say whatever you want, and it's not surprising that Tommy Robinson has preyed on people who go to these games. Now, some clubs are worse than others. Liverpool is a lot better in some regards, although it dealt with its own racism controversy in 2011 awfully, when a player called Luis Suarez was banned for 9 games for racially abusing a Man United player, Patrice Evra, and then they all wore shirts in solidarity with Suarez because they thought his ban wasn't justified. That's ridiculous. But Liverpool is super left-wing and socialist. They hate the Conservatives. So I ain't got much of a problem with Liverpool. Other clubs, like, the Manchester clubs, hate the Tories as well. Celtic is a really good one in Scotland. They come from an Irish background and they hate fascists. They're pro-Palestinian. They're some decent football clubs like that. But then you have the ones like West Ham, Chelsea, Luton, all these ones with like really bad racist controversies, ones that haven't really evolved much since the 1970s, 80s, 90s, where it was awful in British football when the first generation of black British footballers started to play. So that's where I disagree with Gary Neville. I do agree with him. The broader point is that people like Boris Johnson, they have emboldened racists, essentially. But I think football's always been its own thing, its own little haven for racists to get together and say all this stuff. And obviously, in my opinion, if you're talking about racism in football, you need to come down hard on these fans. So it's good to see in England they're getting lifetime bans and everything. But come on, when Celtic play Lazio, they're literally having fascist banners out and they're singing fascist songs. And it's really representative of the countries they're from. So Italy obviously has a bigger problem with fascism in the UK. So it's not surprising you see loads of fascists in the Italian fan bases. But then we can't get all high and mighty in this country because we still have a massive problem with racism. If Boris Johnson wins the election, what does that say about our country? We think we're so tolerant and everything. We're just electing someone who has been on record being racist numerous times. The Tory party are institutionally racist. And it's so funny, they've spun the conversation where it's like, no, Jeremy Corbyn, he's the racist. He hates Jews. But Boris Johnson, he's not racist at all, despite saying racist things about black people and Muslims on record. But Jeremy Corbyn's never said anything racist, but he is the racist. So that just shows you, how our society is messed up at the moment. And I could go on a big rant how it's the British media all in bed with the Tories, they're all in bed with the rich, so it's in their interest to prop up the racists. But at the end of the day, British teams and British society need to do a lot more to stamp out racism. And I think it all can come back to the way we are taught about the empire in this country. Think about America, think about your problems with race, think about the Confederacy, think about how you're not taught about a lot of things in some states. I'm not saying everyone. And I've seen textbooks in America that said the reason there's the Indians weren't around is because they taught the settlers how to farm and then they left. They didn't get massacred and had a genocide done against them. They just left. And then you have obviously black people going to schools named after Confederate generals. You have all these different problems, and I think Britain has a similar problem in that we're taught the empire. We're not taught about it's a bad thing. We're not taught it killed so many people. We're not taught that the Queen has made all her wealth off the backs of exploiting and killing, not just the Queen, the royal family, millions of non-white people, right? And that is where you need to change it. Jeremy Corbyn saying, I'm going to teach people about what the empire really was, because I think it's most people in this country have a positive view of the empire, the British Empire. Not just like that was something that happened, it was a time. Literally think it was a good thing. And that is something we need to tackle. It's the root cause, it's education. You need to educate people. And where does that start? Primary school. Teach kids how bad the East India Company was. Teach kids about the genocide of the natives by the European settlers. Teach kids about why World War One was fought. Not that it was fought because Franz Ferdinand was assassinated. Teach that it was just a war by warring factions of not warring factions, but warring countries who all had just one thing in mind: expanding their empire. That's actually all World War One was, sending millions of people, young men off to die just for the benefits of the elite. So that is where we need to tackle it, and it starts there. Hopefully, if Labour get in, which is not guaranteed at all, they reform it and start changing some things so we can get some better education about this and help stamp out racism in all aspects of British society, not just football. Football does have its very own problems and its very specific problems, and I think we can't, even though I like what Gary Neville was saying, I think we can't always do that. We do have to look at football individually, even though it is reflective of society. We need to focus on why this area in particular is such a safe space for racists. Anyway, hope you like this new style of video. If you join later, maybe go back and watch it again. I did disable the comments because I wanted to focus and just get this video out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about racism in sport. Tell me about your own problems in America. I know the NFL and Colin Kaepernick and all that stuff, and I should make a video on that. I think I have before. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. Is it just a general society problem? Is it a football problem? Do you like what Gary Neville said? If you've watched it, and if you haven't, go and have a look. Just type it in. Sky Sports actually put the clip up, which is good on them. If you want to find me on social media, follow me at The Cavernacle on both Twitter and Instagram. If you want to follow me on Reddit, follow me at u/TommyCahill1995. If you want to check out my Patreon, that should be in the description, as well as my WordPress. And if you made it this far, thank you for